All right. All right, welcome everybody to this month's, well, I guess it's technically a week late. It was last month's community meeting for PatternFly. My name is Nicole. I'm the PatternFly Scrum Master and coordinator of this meeting. And after we conclude today, I will upload the recording of this meeting to YouTube and email it out to the PatternFly mailing list, along with all the slides and links for future reference. And we have a pretty packed agenda, so I think we'll just jump right into it. I will start by passing it off over to Matt Carrano. He wants to talk about a new design, making sure that's right. Yeah, he's at the top of the agenda. A new design for cards.
Yeah, actually, can we push this to the end and
Sure.
Do everything at once?
For sure. Yep. I'll go in next. I really quickly wanted to let me share my screen. I really quickly wanted to run through a list of components that are scheduled to be promoted out of beta at the end of this month. And I'm not going to belabor the point too much, but basically beta components are components that are newer and their APIs and their design decisions are a little bit more in flux or still evolving. But once they're promoted out of beta, then they're going to be more stable. We won't introduce breaking changes to them anymore. And we know that that stability is important. So we try to get components out of beta as soon as we're confident that they are in a good state, usable, meeting people's needs. So I just wanted to give products, users, community members an opportunity to give us feedback before they're promoted, basically within the course of the next few weeks. So you might have seen this list before. We've had this list for a little over a month now. But at the end of this month, the components that we're hoping to have promoted out of beta are the code block component. There's a link to this page on the slides. Also, the helper text component, the menu component, which is already being pretty widely used. And there are some variations or variants of the menu component that are a little bit more complex that we're still leaving in beta for future work. But most of the implementations and features on the menu component, we're hoping to get out of beta as soon as we can. We have a notification drawer. And also the loading variant of the select component. I did see that there is an issue open for this right now, which we're working through, but hopefully this is will be stable enough by the end of the month for promotion as well. It's good to see issues for these beta components because that means people are using them and testing them and making sure that they meet their needs. So we definitely encourage you to play with them and give us feedback. We have a sidebar component.
Hey Nicole, I don't know if anybody else is seeing this problem, but your screen share is showing up really small in the top right left corner.
Oh, interesting. I wonder if it's a layout thing. If you were to pin it, maybe you might see the whole thing.
That's better.
I'll make it a little bigger, yeah. Okay. Hopefully that's a little bit more helpful. Is that all right for everyone? Like I said, you can, just made it worse for you, huh? All right, let me stop presenting and present one more time. See if I can just share my tab because I had multiple windows I wanted to share. I was sharing my whole window. Let's see, is this better? Maybe, hopefully. It's about the same. All right. Well, I don't know what very strange. I've never seen it for me before, but okay. We will keep going because you can view this document that I'm trying to share by a link in the slides. Hopefully nobody else who presents today has this issue. But we have a sidebar component. That's the last one I was going to share, actually. So there we go. But yeah, that's all. I just wanted to encourage you to give us feedback if any of these components are components that you use. Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that they're meeting everybody's needs before they're promoted out of beta. All right, that's it for me. Next, I'm going to hand it over to Alana, who's going to give us a little update about PatternFly social media.
Thanks, Nicole. Let me just, sorry, I'm losing my voice. Let me share my screen. Is this showing up okay for everybody?
It is, yep.
Okay, great. So it's been a while since I've given some PatternFly social media updates. So I just wanted to hop on today and give you guys a quick run through of kind of where we started, where we are now, and where we're heading in the future. So it's been a year and a half since we started really tapping into our social media strategy for PatternFly. And we've seen growth throughout our Twitter and Medium channels. So I'm going to walk through some before and afters with you just to show how far we've come so far. So in spring 2020, our PatternFly Twitter had 866 followers, and our engagement was relatively low, hovering around like 1.5, 2%. And we mainly just tweeted when there was PatternFly news to share. We didn't tap into any thought leadership. We weren't really giving much of a brand voice to our PatternFly Twitter. It was mainly a way to communicate essential news and PatternFly updates. And now in fall 2021, a year and a half later, we have 94 new followers, bringing our total to 960, and our engagement rate is up 2 to 3%, which sounds like a small increase on paper, but it makes our notifications come in a lot quicker. And we're getting more mentions, likes, and retweets, and we're building our online community with not only PatternFly news, but Medium article promotions, UX tips, and other PatternFly and UX content. And then for our Medium growth, we started in May 2020 with only 80 followers, and we got around 1,300 views per month and 875 minutes read per month. And that just means how long people spent on our Medium stories. We had 2 curated articles, which were articles that were chosen for further promotion by Medium's own editors. And most of our articles focused again on PatternFly news and updates similar to our Twitter. And we didn't have a consistent publishing cadence at that time. And now, a year and a half later, we have 214 followers, so we more than doubled our follower count. And we're getting around 1,200 views per month and 1,200 minutes read per month, meaning that we're putting out more content and people are spending more time reading it. We have 12 curations, which is 10 more than before. And we actually were featured on the Medium homepage once as well. So we're getting more eyes and ears on our voices on Medium, and our writer count has been growing consistently since May 2020 as well. So now let's take a look at the future. We have all of this great traction. Where are we going to go from here? So we're going to continue to post PatternFly and thought leadership content across both our Medium and Twitter, especially with the focus on amplifying and empowering community voices on both of those platforms. And in the future, I'm not quite sure if it's going to be in the next couple months or maybe in the spring, we're going to revive our design guidelines effort because Kevin is back from paternity leave. So we can get started on that workshop and seeing how we can make component design guidelines more readable and digestible for everyone using them. And I want to take a moment to highlight a cool Medium series that we're starting to post. The first article just went live next week. It's called 10 UXDers, 10 Questions, 10 Weeks. And what we did is our PatternFly team interviewed 10 members of Red Hat's UXD team that also contribute and work with PatternFly. And each week we're featuring a different question about UX, open source, how to break into the industry, tips and best practices. So it's a great way to not only learn from experts, but also get to know people that we interact with on a day-to-day basis. So there's a link at the bottom of the slide to catch up on Medium, and we're going to have a new article coming out this week as well. And This is just one of my typical calls. If you are interested in sharing any of your UX and open source stories, just like those 10 folks that we're featuring in our Q&A series, fill out our Medium topic submission form. We can feature anything from case studies to learning experiences, different projects you're working on, how you're using PatternFly components for cool applications. So there's a wide range of stories and ways that you can share your voice on that publication. And I just want to take a moment. This is actually my last PatternFly community meeting. I'm going to be moving on to a new opportunity at the end of this week. But I just wanted to thank everyone for all of the collaboration and support they've given throughout all of our PatternFly content initiatives. It's been such an amazing time growing our community with you, and I can't wait to see how PatternFly grows going forward. So if you want to be part of that growth and get involved, there's 3 links at the bottom of the slide. You can join our Twitter community, follow us on Medium, and submit a topic for a Medium article like I mentioned before. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alana. That's exciting stuff, and we're going to miss you. Okay, next up, we're going to hear from Jessie and Joachim about Quickstarts. I'll hand it over to you.
Hello, let me go ahead and steal the screen share. All right, can you see this, the slide deck?
Yep.
All right, awesome. So as many of you have probably heard, PatternFly has been expanding out more complex and use case specific solutions into the extension space. And our main extension that we've been focusing on has been Quickstarts. Quickstarts basically solves a common product use case. When users are new to a product, they often need guidance around getting started with the product and any complex tasks within the UI. OpenShift solved this problem through creating the original Quickstart, and then this was extracted out so that all products could benefit from the solution. And it's now being maintained and supported by our extensions team. Our goal has been to be in line with PatternFly in terms of the process and release to keep things familiar and simple, though it's currently more flexible since we're still a small and developing team. We have a grown prioritized backlog that's been based on stakeholder feedback, though we're still working through issues, new features, etc. There has been a lot of progress to Quickstarts since its inception, but some of the more recent updates have been things like a prop-based drawer, scrolling behavior for footer actions, updates to task items, etc. But there's a lot more to come. This is going to be including things like visual styling updates, new features, etc. that we'll probably update you guys with in the future. And I also wanted to share that we have updated documentation on the Quickstarts, and it includes all of the different relevant design guidelines showing here. And it runs through the different things that you might use with a Quickstart, so things like the card, the catalog, side panel, and it gives you content guidelines to understand what to actually fill your Quickstart with. Then we also show a quick example of what this would look like in context. And we're planning on having more updates to this documentation, especially considering like development guidelines, anything more specific in that realm. But that is just a quick overview of what Quickstarts is and what our progress has been. But now I'd love to pass it off to Joachim, who's going to show how to get started with Quickstarts and give an introductory demo.
Hey all, there's some people doing yard work outside, so hopefully it won't be interrupted. Okay, I'm trying to share my ultra wide screen here. Hopefully it's legible. If it's not, let me know and I can try to zoom in a bit more. But there was interest, from a development perspective, what it takes to add Quickstarts to a project. So I just wanted to kind of quickly walk through that and kind of show you what it takes. So a good starting point from a development perspective is if you go to the PatternFly Quickstarts repo. And it is a mono repo. So if you look at the README down here, just head to the README for the module, which is what you'll actually install from NPM. And it kind of walks you through what it takes to install and use it in your own applications. So what I've done here, just to demonstrate, is I've created a simple React application. And right now it's just, it's using multiple routes. And in this case, I have 3 routes. I've already installed React Core from PatternFly. And you can see that basically every route is wrapped within this app component. And all that app component does right now is basically wrap the children in our PatternFly page component. And then it includes a common side nav and a common header. So you can see that as I go between these routes, there's very simple content right now. So I've gone ahead in this React application just to save some time. If you look at the dependencies, I've already installed PatternFly Quickstarts. And then it does have a couple peer dependency requirements, one of them being React Core, which is also already installed, and also Showdown, which is what we use to parse Markdown to HTML. And the reason we use that is because if you look at some of these Quickstarts files, which I've also pre-created here just to save even more time, you can see that this is the structure of what a Quickstart looks like. And if you look at the values, it actually supports Markdown syntax. So this way, it's easy to kind of create listings and format text for your Quickstarts. So going back to our main routes, so basically, as soon as you install the PatternFly Quickstarts package, one of the first things that you'll want to do in your own application is to pull in the Quickstarts styles. So you can see them right here. I'm importing them from PatternFly Quickstarts, and this is the minified file. Next, you will want to, you can see that all the route children are wrapped in this app component, which is a great starting point because all I have to do is go into this app and import the Quickstarts container from the PatternFly Quickstarts package. And you can see that this app, even before I added this import, was already importing the JavaScript files for the Quickstarts content. It was loading them. I set a timeout of 1500 milliseconds just to simulate like a network load, but it wasn't actually doing anything with those files yet. So that's what I'm about to add some functionality for, is to actually do something with these files. So like I said, the first thing I'll do here is pull in the Quickstart container and then just wrap my page inside of that Quickstart container. And if I hit the save button here and reload my window, you actually won't see any changes because it's literally just a wrapper as of now, but we don't have anything, we don't have any Quickstarts showing right now. Another thing that you'll get from this Quickstarts package, if I head back to here, another thing you'll get for free is the Quickstart catalog page, which I will pull in right here. And instead of just displaying resources inline, I'm going to actually use that new component that I just pulled in the Quickstart catalog page. And when I save now and reload this browser window, it actually won't show anything because, like I said, I'm not actually doing anything with the loaded data yet. So as a final step, all I have to do now is I'm going to create some state to hold my data. And then really, once the data is loaded in my effect right here, I'm just going to set it. I'm also going to create an object right here to pass the data into it. So that just holds my Quickstarts data, and then that is just being fed into my Quickstarts container. Oops, I don't know why it does that. Okay, right here. And now when I hit the save button, you can see that all of the Quickstarts are now showing up in that catalog component that I got for free. I still won't be able to interact with these cards yet because I just need I need to tie my application state to the Quickstart state. So I just need to create a couple more, a little bit more state in my main application. One is for the active Quickstart, and then the other one is for the overall state of the Quickstarts. How far I've progressed through each Quickstart, and then I just need to tie my application state to the Quickstart state by just passing those in. And again, these props are fed into the Quickstart container. And now when I hit the save button again, now I can finally start to interact with my Quickstarts. So you can see I can click on a tile, and it's actually going to walk me through one of these Quickstarts. Lastly, if you're loading Quickstarts over the network, it's going to take some time. Obviously, you don't want to show a blank screen while it's loading. So it does have a built-in loading bar as well that you can get for free if you want to use that just by passing a loading prop in here. And now when I save that and I hit reload, you can see there's a loading spinner. Of course, you're free to use your own loading display if you want to, but that's just something that's already built in. And then lastly, what I want to demonstrate is, it's nice you can go to the resources page or the catalog to view all of the Quickstarts that are available in your application. But if you need to open up one of these Quickstarts from another page, another route, you can do that as well. In this case, I'm going to the main component right here. And basically, anywhere within your application that's under the Quickstart container tree, all you have to do is import the Quickstart context from PatternFly Quickstarts, and then you can simply use that context to do something like, for example, opening up one of the existing Quickstarts. So you can see here, I used React use context to pull in my Quickstart context, and then I can operate on that. In this case, I'm using the setActive Quickstart function, and I'm going to pass it the ID of one of my Quickstarts. And each Quickstart has a unique ID. So this way, it'll actually know which Quickstart to launch. So now I'm on a different route, and I can click on this button, and you can see it pops open that Quickstart. And because the Quickstart container is so high up the tree, it's nice because now you can also move between your routes, and the Quickstart drawer on the right will stay open even as you go someplace else. That's really nice because if your Quickstart makes mention of do step A at this route, and then it takes you somewhere else, it's nice if the drawer stays static and you can just walk through that and then follow the guides here and interact with your main application. So that was just kind of a quick run through. I did create a code sandbox as well. If you go back to the PatternFly Quickstarts repository, there's the usage instructions here, but there's also a link right here for code sandbox. And if you open up that link, it basically shows you almost exactly what I just showed you. So just within the code sandbox environment, and it takes a bit to load, but yeah, you can see it right here. So you feel free to play with this example, but I hope this should be pretty straightforward to implement in your own applications. And that's all I wanted to show. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for the live demo. It worked great. And if anybody has any questions for Jessie or Joachim, you can put them in the chat, or if we have time at the end, we can possibly take a few. But in the meantime, we will move right along over to Michael with a PatternFly core update.
Thanks, Nicole. Click the buttons to share my screen. And okay. So it's a pretty light release. We had some other fixes and build workspace changes that are all really cool. But as far as new features and enhancements go, we just had a couple. And so the first up is with the dual list selector component. We've added the option for draggable, droppable items. And so you can see this here in our example for draggable. We show a bunch of item states as to what they look like as far as when an item is draggable, and we're currently working on these in the React component to be draggable within a box here or between boxes too, so you can drag back and forth instead of clicking the little arrow buttons. And then up next is a progress stepper component. Sarah Rumbacher worked on this, did a great job, and so this is really cool. You can just check it out here. It's a new component, so it's beta. We've got the basic representation of what this progress stepper is going to look like. Then you've got some cool options like adding a description, different alignment options depending on how you're using it and where the stuff is on your page. You've got different orientations, whether you want a horizontal stacked kind of approach, or you want a vertical sort of split side-by-side approach to showing the progress stepper relative to the content that it's stepping through. We've got a different display option for compact, depending on what it is you're showing. You can see here where we're showing an issue where it's like a warning type of icon for one of the steps that you've gone through. We've got a failure on a step, and so the styling for that state is a bit different, where the text turns red, and then usage with custom icons as the step icons instead of the standard ones. And that's it.
All right. Next are updates from the React team for various React updates. And then we're starting off with Cooper. Awesome.
Hey, can you guys see my screen there?
Yep. That's
Great. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a couple of updates to components that have made it through core and out into React. The first is the updates to the alert component, the inline plane type, and its variations. As you can see here, these are kind of made to be a little bit less styled and fit closer in with your text more easily. And this is a little bit telling here that the inline plane variations, there is only one, because we don't recommend to put in your action close or action link buttons inside of an inline plane, because it's meant to kind of go inline with your text. And then the last variation for the alert is the expandable one, which you can see here, the inline and the regular, which just basically allows you to expand the description text there. And then on to tabs. The update we did here is to add in the disabled state to be able to just basically have some of your tabs being disabled. And you can see here that we gave the ability to do an ARIA disabled with a tooltip if you want to have the disabled styling, but also communicate to your user basically why that tab is disabled in any given case. And the final one is our back to top component, which you can see here. I'm inside of the React demo for the back to top component. And if you just went ahead and open this up, the demo's here. Basically what's going to happen, it's defaulting to about 400 pixels, I think. As you're scrolling down, the back to top component will pop up there in the bottom right corner and allow you to scroll back to top. And then you can use this toggler here, which is just going to change a prop on the component to make it always visible if you want it to be there without scrolling. So yep, that finishes up for me. I'm not sure who's next, but you can probably take over screen sharing from there.
Awesome. Thanks. Next is Katie.
Yep. All right. Let me share my screen. All right. For me, we have a couple new modifiers for description list component. First up is the compact flag for description list. You can tell like you can work on horizontal or vertical description lists, and kind of has a bit less padding between each of the categories and all of the spacing. Just to compare, if I scroll up, you can see without the compact selector, everything's a little bit more spread out. And then the other new flag we've got for description list is for horizontal description list specifically, called fluid. So this flag will basically, instead of separating out each kind of category from value in like 2 columns, they'll flow together. So this fluid styling will only work for horizontal as well. And that's it for me. Pretty straightforward.
All right. Next is Zack.
Oh, hello. Let's share. All right, so I have some drag and drop things that I've been working on, and this is for, I suppose, both designers and developers. On the developer side, we've implemented a lot of logic and animation by using the components in these patterns. And then on the design side, Andrew and Matt Carrano helped design what things should look like as you drag and you drop them. So this component might be released this sprint, not sure, but it's coming soon. So here's what it looks like. You can click and drag an item, and then as you drag it, it's probably hard to see on the screen share, but the items do like fluid or animate moving up and down, so it feels very, very smooth. And once you drop it, goes into place. And if you drag somewhere invalid, like not in the drop zone, and then you let go, it animates going back. And also you can have multiple lists, so you can drag items between lists. So this is what that part looks like. And a bug that we had before in our data list was that if you had items of different size, it didn't handle them very well, but items of different size work fine now. Yeah, it's fun to play around with, just drag stuff all over the place. And as an example, we implemented it in the draggable data list down here. So rework this example to, instead of using the old vanilla HTML drag and drop API, to use our new drag and drop components, which don't use that API because it's quite buggy and not well designed, part of the standard. And so this is what it looks like in the data list context. We had to do some technical things to get this working, Michael Coker and I, but here you go, it's working.
Is there any keyboard accessibility for that?
Not yet,
Okay.
but we need to do that part still. It's a little tricky because like in this example, you'd want to be able to tab to the buttons to do the buttons. So these handles here, but in this example, when you tab, we're going to have to set like a tab index on the divs because these are all divs. But that part is coming.
Yeah, I know that we're actively working on this component that can be consumed by a handful of our list-like components for reordering and dragging. One of the main reasons it has not been fully released, even though the code's been developed, is because we're trying to figure out accessibility and styling across multiple components. So yeah, be on the lookout. But you'll definitely see it in the release notes as soon as it's available, and we'll probably hype it up a lot for feedback, for sure, since it will be in beta for a while. Let's see, next up is Titani.
Hello, let me just share my screen. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great. So we are continuing to add demos using our menu component to build out examples how you might implement some of our menu-like components. So recently we've added a demo for the context selector. So over here, we built out a context selector using the menu and a menu toggle and a menu input. So this would match with the context selector that we currently have over here. And that's all I had to share today.
All right, thank you. I'll highlight with that one that we've been actively working on implementing our various drop-down like components using our new menu component, which I noted is hopefully being promoted out of beta this release, or the next release at the end of November. And one of the things that it enables us to do with the menu component is create a much more flexible component that is not overloaded with built-in functionality, but gives the consumers the ability to use it in many, many different ways to implement many features. So we often get enhancement requests for things like a select component, which our select component is rather heavy of a component. It does implement a lot of features and ships with a lot of logic. So enhancements are expensive. And if you want to see an enhancement implemented in a drop-down like component quickly, building one using our menu component is probably a really much quicker way to see things implemented in PatternFly. So you'll be hearing us talk more about the menu component and other components that we're calling composable components, which is our way of saying they're more flexible, lightweight, customizable. And that leads to my demos, which now I'm all self-conscious because everybody else's screen shares went so well. We'll see how mine goes on the second attempt. But let me pull up my screen and see how it goes. All right. Someone call out if you can't see it well. Look okay? All right, beautiful, sweet. Let's see. So what I have here is some new demos that were released last release for the search input. Both of them are using a more composable search input. So they are not out of the box features, but they're features that you can implement using PatternFly components, and they're fully implemented using PatternFly components. The first is a search with autocomplete. So this is basically a text input with a search icon that as you start typing, it filters a list, a dynamic list, a very long list of suggested terms. And when there's only one term left in the list, it gives you a hint for how to autocomplete it. And you can hit tab or the right arrow key to autocomplete it. And then that will, that's kind of how this autocomplete works. It's built using our search input with the composable menu. So that's just a taste of, a lot of people try to use our type ahead select component to work like an autocomplete. But here we are demonstrating ways to build autocompletes with some customizable features and things like that. So that's the first demo. The second one is this composable advanced search, which we do have an advanced search variant of the search input right now that allows you to build dynamically an advanced search form based on particular props that you pass in, but it is a very narrow feature. So if you have any unique form elements that you want to add to your advanced search, like a date input, for example, that the built-in advanced search feature does not allow for that. But if you use a composable approach, you can build your form to basically your search form to look however you'd like. So in this case, if you expand the, oh, my browser's trying to be clever. If you expand the advanced search, you'll see that it has the ability to do things like filter a bunch of data based on a date range using this is a composable menu with menu toggle and a date picker. And so, for example, you could do something like that. And it just gives basically the consumers a lot more flexibility in the future. And when I submit, I even have some custom parsing to present the input in the search input itself in a way that represents this complex form. So lots more flexibility when using composable components. If you feel like you are requesting a feature that is adjacent to an existing component, but not exactly, that's kind of the exact use case for seeing if there's a composable approach. So that's definitely a conversation we want to be having more and more with React consumers specifically, but also in the HTML and CSS side. They've also been adapting this kind of approach more often. And one of our next PatternFly newsletters that should be coming out fairly soon will have a whole write-up with some more background and information about composable concepts and components. So if you're interested, you can look for that. Okay, but that, oh, I have one more demo I wanted to give, and that is an enhancement to the table, which is, I'll note, we do have a composable React implementation. So that is another example of something that's a little bit more of a lightweight React implementation that gives you a lot more customizable options than our pre-existing, we call it colloquially the legacy table. But that's just the more, that's the heavier lift, the tighter features. But I made an enhancement to the composable row click handler example to show how you can implement hoverable. Can you tell they're hoverable in the screen share? Hopefully. And selectable rows. So this is a way you can allow users to select rows for various reasons, in addition to using a radio button or checkbox, which are also features that we have enabled in table examples. This feature and this enhancement is also demonstrated on our non-composable examples. So I'll pull that up and just demonstrate that that is implemented here as well. So both React implementations of table have this feature enabled for anyone who's looking for it. All right, I think that's all I have. So now I'll pull up the agenda again, and I think I'm handing it over to Matt to talk about what we are currently working on.
Thanks, Nicole, and I will actually start with that. First item that I deferred, so let me clear my screen out. All right, so let me start with this and talk a little bit about this change that we're proposing to make. So right now we reflect selected cards by placing a blue border on the card. And the problem with that was that for Chrome now they use a blue border to reflect focus, so it became impossible to differentiate selection from focus, and we got some feedback that even though you deselected the card, it looked like it was still selected because it was still had focus. So we kind of searched for a different solution for card selection states that would also be selectable, would avoid any visual conflict with the Chrome focus, which was actually quite a challenge. And this was actually Michael Saldonia came up with this design, which for handling the card selection. This animation here kind of shows you as you mouse over the card, you get a in blue outline at the bottom, and then as you click down and select the card slightly raises. So we're using position here to indicate cards that are selected. So this is the current core PR that we have up, shows this in a primary detail card catalog view, where you can see the first card is selected. It's slightly raised from the other cards. If I mouse down on another card, you'll see there's a little animation where that card will pop up a bit. So before we introduce this as a global change in the library, I did want to kind of float this out there, and because I know lots of projects are using these types of card grids, and make sure that nobody sees any downside of doing this, or any conflict with anything you may have already done to customize these cards in the grid. So if you do see any concerns with this, please feel free to voice them now or to follow up with me offline and alert me to that before we actually flip the switch on this and introduce this into PatternFly release. Okay, so if there are no questions about that, I'm going to move on to talking about what we're working on. And so currently some of the things that are in progress, in general, kind of in a longer view initiative, we are starting to look at a visual refresh. This is nothing that we expect to happen, certainly not this year or in the near-term future, but the current PatternFly 4 look and feel has been out there now for 2+ years, and I think it's time to look at any improvements we might want to make to that. One of our goals, I think, is to align a little bit better with the Red Hat brand look and feel. So certainly if any of you designers have any input on that, we're glad to hear that. And Michael Celedonia is kind of leading up that initiative. So Michael would be a great person to reach out to. We're also kind of taking another look at filter patterns. Margot Manistro and myself have been working on both looking at any component enhancements and also updating our guidance on that. We're looking at supporting multiple file uploads. Cassandra Grays has been working on that. Label enhancements. We've already started making some changes for making labels editable, but we're looking at the interaction for that and making sure that that is usable by providing the proper affordances. And then finally, I've been working on a design for a graphical visual query builder that will help users build Boolean queries. So the links in the slides go out to those design issues. Certainly welcome any feedback, input, comments on any of those topics. In terms of things that are currently under development, we have a current core issue for horizontal table scrolling, which will allow you to also make a certain number of columns sticky. This is, I think, something that will be very useful in lots of projects where you've got tables with lots of columns and data that you may want to keep on the screen, or you might want to let the user scroll horizontally. We're currently adding a link style for banners when you want to embed a link into the banner component. Adding a non-actionable card, which would be, we're not calling it a disabled card, but basically when you have a catalog view where you've got a card that for some reason is non-actionable because it's maybe that feature that relates to that card is not currently available. It will present a little bit different visual styling, and then also looking at demonstrating key value multi-select filtering, which is something that goes a lot together with kind of rethinking some of our filter patterns, and so that should be something that we will be working on more and hopefully rolling out sometime in the next release or two. And then on the React side, the composable search, we're continuing to work on that. Nicole and Titani both talked about that a little bit in their presentations. Enhancing the dual selector, which will integrate the drag and drop that Zack had demonstrated and Michael talked about a little bit. So hopefully in the next release coming up in a matter of days, that will be actually available in the React component. We're also working on flyout navigation that we hope to have available in the next few days, and also the progress stepper. So all of these things should be available in our upcoming release, which, as I say, is probably a matter of a few days away. You can always check out the full feature roadmap if you want to see where any of your requests live in the schedule. We have that roadmap currently scheduled out into Q1 of next year. So that about does it for me. Any other questions you guys have? Okay, if not, I'm going to hand it back to Nicole. I think Evan has one final topic.
Yep, I'm going to pass it right on over to Evan.
Great, thank you. First of all, thanks everyone in the community for joining us today. Really excited that you are here to see the updates that we've got. Obviously, a lot of work always going into PatternFly to push out these new features, enhancements, bug fixes, whatever the case may be. So the topic I have to talk about directly relates to that, but actually involves all of you as well. So it's Hacktoberfest, which is sponsored by DigitalOcean. It's something that happens, I guess, each October. I'm not sure how long it's been going on, but since I've been here the last few years, I'll go ahead and throw a link to it in the chat, and I'm going to share my screen and kind of talk through what we're doing for Hacktoberfest and how you can participate. Let's see here. Let me share this one. I'll be jumping around a little bit. All right, so Hacktoberfest, the high-level overview is essentially it's not a contest or competition. I guess it's an event that you can opt into, and it's really just designed and created to encourage open source contributions and kind of give people an excuse to go ahead and contribute. Well, I guess what's in it for you outside from contributions are if you do 4 or more PRs, they will actually go ahead and send you a free t-shirt with the Hacktoberfest logo and a box of swag, which essentially translates to a lot of different stickers, coasters. I'm trying to think what else I got last year. A whole bunch of random things. So the exciting part about it is at Red Hat, since we're basically all heads down in open source as is, a lot of the work that we're doing actually counts towards this, and there's nothing else that you need to do other than register and then submit those PRs like you normally would. And so on the next slide here, you can go ahead and register through the Hacktoberfest site. That's what I linked in the chat. And then we've opted in for our main PatternFly repos. So that's PatternFly core, React, and org to participate. So repositories do have to opt in to essentially be a part of this. And then the PRs that you put up are automatically tracked. So there's nothing else you have to do. So I went ahead and put a link to each of the repos here and filtered by the Hacktoberfest issues that we've called out. And I'll walk through those here in just a second. So let's see, let me change my screen share to this window. So through the Hacktoberfest site, while that's loading up, if you go here, you can just click this Start Hacking button right in the middle of the page. It'll have you register through GitHub or GitLab, and then you're all set. So I'll jump over to our PatternFly. This is our core repo, so our HTML and CSS. And repos that are participating have to add the Hacktoberfest topic, which we've done. And so if you're not familiar where to see that, right when you go to the repo, it's this little label here on the right side, Hacktoberfest. And if we jump into our issues, the links in that slide should link right here. But if you want to filter down and find one that maybe is approachable, we've gone through each of these repos and tried to pull out what we'd normally call good first time issues. So if you haven't contributed before, or it's been a while, or you'd like to give it a go, but it's a little intimidating to pick up just a random issue, these are ones that should be pretty approachable for really anyone to get started with. So you can go ahead and just choose the label drop down, filter by Hacktoberfest, and you'll see this is in the core repo, so HTML, CSS. We've got a number of issues here. If I click over to React, we've got the same here, and then also in the org issue, which houses our website and our documentation, we've got a couple here. Now, I will call out any issues that you put up PRs for that get merged count towards Hacktoberfest. These ones that are labeled are just ones that we've called out are very approachable. You know, some of these are things like changing a background color, or just adding documentation. So some of them are pretty small, some of them are updating type definitions, you know, things that maybe you're familiar with but haven't contributed to PatternFly before. So just wanted to call it out there. There's no cost. It's something that gives you an opportunity to contribute, but also get something back. As an alternative to the t-shirt, you can actually opt to plant a tree as well, if that floats your boat more. But yeah, we would love and encourage all of you who are already participating in our monthly updates to go ahead and take a look at some of those issues. They may, alongside other issues you're working on by yourself, and other projects may already count towards your 4 PRs. So you just have to register through Hacktoberfest and then make sure that you're putting PRs up that are getting merged in the month of October. And once you hit that 4 PR mark, that's really all it takes. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out if you're looking for other issues. If all of those ones are claimed and you're having trouble finding one that might be a good place to start, we are more than happy to point you in the right direction. A lot of these we already have thoughts around how they could be tackled. We just haven't had a chance to actually do that work yet. So would love any help that we can get. And that's all I had to say about Hacktoberfest. Thank you so much for listening.
All right. I'm putting a couple links into the chat right now, one is a link to join the PatternFly mailing list. If you're not already on it, I will send out a recording of this meeting, all the slides with all the links, and a summary of the agenda to the mailing list after this meeting later today. So that's also where we send out the PatternFly newsletter and other like high-level important PatternFly announcements and communications. So I definitely recommend joining if you haven't. Also, there's my email in the chat if you ever want to present any work you're doing that's related to PatternFly. We love hearing from all community members for all the different efforts and experimenting and projects that are being undertaken related to PatternFly. So definitely reach out to me if you have anything you'd like to present or see discussed. And I think that's it for this meeting. We will see you again at the end of the month. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you.